What's going on, everyone? This is Corey with Xbox Tavern with another review. Today I'm looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Unleashed. Now let's start off with a bit of personal background. I love the Ninja Turtles. These are in particular my Ninja Turtles, and so are these. That aside, I'm always down for anything Ninja Turtles related. And with this new game, it actually follows the most recent movie. Now, this version, this iteration of the Turtles is not my favorite. However, I can still enjoy them to a certain extent. So I kind of knew that going in. That did not sour anything. I was very excited to get my hands on another TMNT game. Now, I don't note publishers too often, but this one is by Outright Games. I've covered a lot of their games. I've played a lot of their games. They are geared towards the younger audience, and typically their games fall in a certain range that you have to come with some kind of expectations on in order to enjoy them or to just kind of understand them and not judge them too harshly and things like that. So I kind of had a lot going in for this game, and once I got into the thick of it, I kind of came to the realization and kind of thought to myself, this is possibly the best outright game that I've played. And that comes in terms of game mechanics. Now, this is not just a simple exploration game or not just a kart racer or some kind of narrative adventure game. This is a full-fledged action RPG where you get to control any of the turtles that you want in the levels and go throughout that level, beating up bad guys and progressing the story. They each have their own movesets and their own skill trees, which is cool. And there is an actual day and night mechanic and a whole timing thing in this game where you have to make sure you're doing a balance of missions in order to, not completely fail. So it actually enhances the game quite a bit. In between missions, there is a hub world that you can navigate via kind of like fast travel. You can't just walk around them, but they are small areas that you can go to and talk to people. Those people have relationships with you that you'll have to build. Doing so grants you different things like more skills in your skill tree to unlock, or there's a lot of cosmetic stuff in the game, so maybe it will add something to your smartphone, stuff like that. It's all very elementary, but again, this is normally a kid's game. It's still Ninja Turtles. It's still targeted towards younger audience, but it's a full-fledged game. Now that said, I had a time playing this. Let's just talk about the kind of flow of the game. As I mentioned, you're going to have a hub world, and you're going to have the option of kind of doing a main mission or go in and talking to somebody, doing a side mission. Those things will advance time, and so again, you're on the clock for some of these main missions. You have to complete them before so many days pass. There was never a feeling of pressure to kind of get them done. It seemed like you had plenty of time, so that was really a non-issue. The levels themselves and the gameplay, what you're going to be doing the most is you're going to be navigating these levels, and they typically have, I would say, 3 to 5 screens worth of content in them each. Just kind of going along on the very linear path, you're going to come across enemies. Those enemies are going to be completely optional. There's going to be like onesies and twosies throughout there. At the beginning, I was defeating them all because I thought I had to. Before halfway, I was just running past them and only doing the enemies that I had to do. That said, each of these little sections that you walk through or run through, they're going to have 1 to 2 what I'll call arena battles. So a small animation will play, and then you're going to be presented with a bunch of enemies surrounding you. And so those are the enemies that you have to defeat using a variety of moves. Defeating them quickly earns you a grade, like an S or A or B or C, and it doesn't seem to be how bad you did. It just all seems to be dependent upon speed. There were some that I almost died on and still got an S rank because I was hitting them pretty quick. So I don't really understand the whole grading system. It seems to go into the XP you get at the end, but that's kind of minute. As you go through the level and you beat these little arenas, you eventually get to the end. The story will wrap up. There will be cutscenes and whatnot, and you'll be thrown back into the hub world. The next day will roll over, and you kind of just do it again. And this is kind of where the option of choice comes into play. You can choose to do side missions that may have you running from point A to point B in a certain amount of time. Maybe you have to defeat enemies in a certain way, like without touching the ground, things like that, depending on what you pick. And like I said, there's going to be people that you can talk to and level up their relationships, and that will be something that you can use to your advantage. For example, a handful of them will relate to a specific turtle, and once you upgrade them enough, you'll have access to that turtle's entire skill tree. You use the XP that you get from the levels in order to unlock these skills and upgrades, something like that. Now, the combat itself is, I'm lukewarm on it. There are a lot of skills that you can unlock and combinations you can unlock, but this game still feels just very button mashy. Now, at some points, very late in the game, I felt like I had to be a little strategic and choose when to button mash, but for the most part, it was a lot of light attacks and heavy attacks, maybe some jumping here and there, but it was not too incredibly difficult, and it wasn't too incredibly interesting to have the combat there. And the enemies that you're fighting, there's only a handful of them. There are variants of them introduced pretty thoroughly and evenly throughout the entire game, even to the very late levels. But the kind of enemies that you're going to come across are going to be a very small pool. And then they're just going to have variations on them. So maybe this lizard guy appears in level 5, but in level 20, you're going to get a version that has a spiky tail, something like that. To kind of mix things up, there is a modifier part of the game in one of the side missions and relationships that you level up. You'll be able to unlock modifiers that only work for that next mission. Typically, these are going to be things that help you out. Maybe you take less damage on the first hit, or you have the ability to find more stuff in boxes and from enemies that what they drop, things like that. So that's kind of cool, especially if you're having a hard time. You can use this extra currency that you get from playing the game, picking up in the levels, and spend it in some way that actually changes the gameplay other than more cosmetics. So that's a plus. The voice acting is a plus as well. I'm almost positive all of the turtles that voiced the movie are now voicing this game, so I like that continuity. The story picks up right after the first movie. I believe there's a second movie on the way, and so this one is right smack dab in the middle. This story itself, I'm kind of glad it was not its own movie. It's not super great, but it's, it's fine for a game. But the fact that it is a continuity of this saga of the turtles is kind of cool. Now, what's not cool is the hoops I've had to jump through to complete this game. Now, I'm really torn about how hard to judge it based off my experience, because I've not read or talked to anybody who has had the same issues I've had. But at some point in the game on my Xbox save, the levels would crash just as I walked into them, or as I was going through a cutscene, the game would crash. And at one point, usually restarting fixed it, but at one point I could not do it. I did it 3 or 4 times. Every time it would just crash at the same spot. So I kind of was about to give up on the game. I was 83% done according to my save file at that time, but I had the idea and I looked it up. This game is play anywhere, so thumbs up. I was able to download it on my PC using the same account. My save file picked right back up, and it worked there. Now, I did a level or two. Then later that day, when I came back to play it, I checked it on my Xbox, and I was able to play it for a level or two. Then it crashed, and the same thing happened, and I got stuck again. So then I just kind of finished it on the PC. I did have a couple crashes on PC, but there was some really weird, janky stuff going on with this game in both versions. I don't know what's up with it. Even the achievements weren't unlocking when I thought they were, and stuff wasn't seeming to be tracked. So I thought maybe there's something with my save file. I started it, before launch. So maybe it's that. I have not started a brand new save file yet, so I don't know if that would fix it, but something is going on technically with this game that it was not agreeing with me. Aside from trying to even play the game while I was playing the game, there are things about the gameplay that I don't like. The camera angle is pretty much fixed and follows on a certain angle or axes, and it got in the way at some times, so not great camera work. But there's also a tooltip that kind of pops up that says, here's how you do this combination of moves. I'm pretty sure once you do that combination, it goes away. Now, the problem with that is I couldn't do that combination. I couldn't get it to work. There was also arena battles that didn't even allow me to do that combination because it required a wall, and it would stay on the screen the entire time. And it's not too big, but it probably takes up like a ninth or a tenth of the screen. And so it's just very annoying that it's there and I can't get rid of it in any way. Also, during some of the cutscenes, the letter grade or that tooltip would appear as soon as I got done with the fight, and a cutscene that would appear. They would stay on there during the cutscene, so there is something going on. Again, maybe it's just my save file, but there is some technical mess with the game that I was experiencing that kind of took me out of it and left a bad taste in my mouth. To go along with that, I mentioned that you have relationships and people that you talk to, and they would have pop-ups whenever I got back into the hub space, and it would say that somebody wants to talk to me. And in the early game, when I was leveling them up, it would say that, and I would go to them and talk to them. In the later game, I've already leveled them up and it's still telling me that they want to talk to me. However, there's no indication that they want to talk to me. And in some cases, they're not even there. So again, just technical mess, glitch after glitch is just kind of leaving me with a really bad taste. And if it wasn't for having a PC and being able to download the game there, I sincerely would not have finished this game. I would have been stuck at like 80%, and that would have been super frustrating. So I have to point that out. I would be remiss if I didn't. Overall, I initially liked this game. I liked the direction it was heading. I liked that it was an actual game and not some licensed IP crap that you see at times. I think this has a lot of potential. I think that with some patching, it could even be considered good. But from my experience, it would be hard to recommend this, even for Turtles fans. There is co-op in this game. You can play 2-player local co-op. And I tried that with my kids, and with the camera angle problems, especially with 2 players and 1 player being the primary, and how it teleports the other player to them, that was giving us so many issues. And whenever it would teleport us, we would get stuck. I would have to backtrack, and then we would have to kind of go together, which I have young kids who can't do all of the fancy platforming, and so I would have to kind of juggle 2 controllers while I navigate over to the next area in order for us to progress. So even the co-op was just atrocious, to be honest. Not great, not good at all. So this has probably been one of my longest reviews. A lot of it's negative. I do like the Turtles, but this game it can be so much more. So with that, I hope you've been able to make an informed decision and see what you like based off when this comes out or when you're watching it. If the game's been patched, it's probably in a better state. And like I said, I have not talked or seen anybody mention the problems I've had. It's just been a really rough time playing Mutants Unleashed. So with that said, I do look forward to something better with this in the future if possible. If not, I would be okay with leaving it in the past. So if you are not on xboxtavern.com already, be sure to go there, check out whatever my final score for this game will be, and I will catch you in the next review.